BookTube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I can't believe it, but it's time to talk about the best books that I read in 2025. Normally there are 5, this time there's 5 and like a couple of honorable mentions that I wanted to include. These are not all the 5-star books that I read in 2025. These are the ones that got me here, you know, like these are the ones that really like kind of have stayed with me. And if I made a review video, I wish I'd made more review videos of some of these in hindsight, but if I did make a video that's heavily focused on one of these books or a review video, I will link to that down below so you can see more detailed thoughts about the book. But I started off 2025 by hosting what I called the Robinson Read Along, and we read the Gilead Quartet by Marilynne Robinson, which is Gilead, Home, Lila, and Jack. And if you do decide to read these books in the future, I would strongly recommend reading them in order. Maybe you could get away with reading Lila out of order, but the other 3 really need to be read in the way that Marilynne Robinson would want you to. So, but I had to include Gilead as my reread honorable mention, the first book in that quartet. The voice of the protagonist, John Ames, Reverend John Ames, it just boomed out over everything I read for months and months. It's such a strong voice. John Ames, let's see. Yeah, this takes place in 1956, and it's told in first person. He's kind of writing letters to his young son, because John Ames knows that he's dying, and I'm not spoiling anything by sharing that with you. It's very beautiful. It's John Ames is an incredible creation, an incredible character, and yeah, so I can't imagine how long Marilynne Robinson must have lived with these people in her mind, but she definitely, I feel like she spent the most time with John Ames, because he, to me, in all 4 books, is the most realized character, the character that I connected with the most, maybe, is the best way to put it. So anyway, I highly recommend Gilead, although if you're dealing with issues of grief, this one could be hard right now. So anyway, so that was my reread honorable mention. And then my other honorable mention, again, it's a 5-star book, and it's probably the funniest book in this list, and that is Some Tame Gazelle by Barbara Pym. I read this with my friend Joe Smith, and Joe, being from the UK, like, always, anytime we read something British together, which is most of the time now that I think about it, but she's very good at helping me get kind of like the humor out of things. So there were a lot of really funny things that I probably wouldn't have picked up if it hadn't been for Joe in this. But this is about 2 sisters, you know, they're holding secret affections in their hearts for other people, and of course 2 newcomers come to the village. I like to think of, at least this book, I haven't read anything else by Barbara Pym, but I definitely will continue to read her work, because I have at least 3 more books by her, including Excellent Women, which is maybe what she's most famous for. I'm not sure, but there's so much humor in this, but it's also like it's a little bit biting. I kind of like to think of her as or at least this book anyway, like as an edgy misread, if you will. So yeah, this was a great read with Joe. We had a great time, and yeah, it's a very funny book. It's a book that, yeah, that has just kind of, again, stayed with me. I read it, I think I want to say we read it in May, maybe. And it just kind of, has stayed up there in my thoughts. Okay, so now these 5 books that I'm going to call the top 5. The first the 4 of them are not in any particular order. But there is a number 1. The first book I want to mention, I read back in March. Again, it's been a while. And I never in a million years, when I picked this up from a used bookstore, thought that I would, still have this book after having read it. I was sure I was going to take it back to the used bookstore. But I loved it. I loved it so much. And this is Tara Road by Maeve Binchy. I read this as part of the Irish Readathon, and it was such a delight. It was, and it was the kind of book, I mean, it's a chunky mass market paperback. I can't remember how many pages are in it, 648 or something like that. Yeah. So it was so good that some of you told me, hey, she wrote another book called Evening Class that has some of the same characters in it. So I bought that. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to get to it before I forget everything in Tara Road. But I could not put it down. I could not put it down. It was just so compelling, and just such wonderful storytelling. So again, I was sure when I bought this at the used bookstore that when I was done reading it, I was going to take it back, and I've held on to it. If you're looking for something that is, like you just need, something to help you get through a long flight, or something you can't put down, this is definitely the book that I would recommend for that. The next book is the second Pulitzer Prize winner on this list, but it's this year's Pulitzer Prize winner, James by Percival Everett. This is Everett's retelling of Mark Twain's classic book about Huckleberry Finn. And he runs, in Huck Finn, we see him run away and encounters a slave named Jim. And Percival Everett really takes that story and turns it on its head. There are so many great ideas in this book, so many interesting and thought-provoking ideas that's why I had to include it in my top 5. This idea that slaves speak like everyone else, but when they're around their owners, they pretend to talk another way, but they can. The slaves that are James's children and other slave children on the plantation where they live, learn to speak kind of almost like a slave dialect, if you will, which I thought was a really interesting idea. But, in Huckleberry Finn, we don't see, like James or Jim is not a part of everything. And so there's times where they're not together, where they're separated. And so then we get to see James in some situations that we haven't ever experienced before. It did make me want to go back and read Huck Finn, which I own somewhere. And so I don't know. I would like to reread those books and then read this one again, I think. That might be a reading project for the future. So, but it's an excellent book. And I think an excellent choice for the Pulitzer Prize. The next books are it's an author that's new to me. I'd never read anything by her until this year. It started with me finding one of her books in, again, a used bookstore, and I got it for a song, so I was really excited about that. And then one of you sent me her other book, so yeah. The first one I recently talked about in a Friday Reads, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This, I can't remember his, Bill Furlong. It's funny because he reminds me a little bit of Mr. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. He has 5 daughters, and is a coal merchant, so he's delivering wood and coal and things like that to other houses in his community. That's his business, and he has employees and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, it takes place during the holidays, so we get to see his family's like holiday traditions and things like that, which I really, really enjoyed. But when Bill was growing up, he never knew who his father was, and his mom died quite early. And she worked for a wealthier woman in town, and that woman said, no, the child can stay here, and I'll raise, we'll all raise him together, kind of thing. And I think he's grateful for that, but he still sort of feels the absence of, like, who is his father? So something happens to him in this very tiny book. It's really, she just packs a lot into a short amount of space. But something happens to him that changes him and makes him realize how fortunate he was when he was growing up, but also like upsets him that something is happening in his community. And anyway, I don't want to spoil this book for you, but this is a super short book. I'm sure your library has it, if nothing else. So I would highly, highly recommend reading Small Things Like These. It was just, it's just very moving. I just thinking about this book and her other book that I read in March for the Irish Readathon, Foster. I was just thinking about those stories, and I started to get emotional because there's just so much humanity in both books. Foster is very different. Foster is about a little girl, again in Ireland, who I don't know, like it's not totally clear, but her family has too many kids, and this wealthy couple that lives out in the countryside takes her in just for the summer before school is going to start, and show her so much kindness and so much caring. I guess it's like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. It's just absolutely just a beautiful, beautiful story. So I don't think I could talk about this one anymore, but anyway, I really recommend both of those books. Okay, number 1 probably won't come as much of a surprise if you've been watching my channel lately, because it is The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, which also was a buddy read with Joe Smith. Clearly, Joe and I have great taste when we read together. this was just, it was so stunning and spectacular and heartbreaking. And I think Joe and I, on some subliminal level, like, we knew how things were going to turn out. Like, we knew it wasn't going to turn out well. And yet we kept going, what about this? Well, what if Lily Bart does this? Or what if Lily Bart takes this path, you know? And also, like, no, Lily, don't do that, Lily, wait. So we were so engrossed in this character of Lily Bart, who, you know, as my family has an expression about, like, wanting to live a champagne life on a beer budget, and that is definitely the life of Lily Bart. Like, she wants to, you know, wear jewels and furs and have the newest clothes and, you know, spend a lot of money. And the truth is, she doesn't have a lot of money. And also, like, she's kind of a brat. She's kind of a snot at times. And it's fascinating. I think it just shows the genius of Edith Wharton, that she makes you care about this character, even in spite of that, in spite of her behavior. Like, Joe and I were so invested in what happened to Lily Bart. Like, it was a great book. It was a great, just, yeah, like, there's a reason this book is still in print. There's a reason, you know, people still read The House of Mirth. And I'm so excited to read more by Edith Wharton, because I have read The Age of Innocence, but that's it. And I had no idea she had written so much, that she was such a prolific author. And this book has really lit a fire under me to read more by her. I heard from one of you over Christmas week that you'd read everything by Wharton, which was, I mean, that's just phenomenal. That's absolutely incredible. I don't expect that I'm going to get to everything by her, but I definitely, I'm going to revisit The Age of Innocence, hopefully in 2026, as well as the second book. And I didn't realize The House of Mirth and The Age of Innocence were part of a trilogy. The second book is my Christmas gift to myself. The Custom of the Country. Talk about, like, two different covers. Anyway, the trilogy, I mean, it's a trilogy in the sense that, like, but it's like, it's called, like, people group those books together, I guess. Or it's the New York trilogy or something like that. But they're not overlapping in the sense of, you know, that they have the same characters or anything like that. I tell you what, though, like, Edith Wharton, she's so good at just instantly transporting you to this world of, you know, upper class New York, and you just feel like, oh, like, you can, it's almost like you, the furs are like brushing on your face as you read the pages, and you can see these just, you know, fantastic outfits and clothes and scenery and dinners and parties and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, Lily Bart, The House of Mirth is my #1 book for 2025. And even though it doesn't bring me to tears the way Foster and Small Things Like These have the power to do, like, the writing is just so outstanding. And I think it is a remarkable feat to create a character that you shouldn't like, that you can foresee what is going to happen to her, or you're trying to foresee what's going to happen to her. But Wharton makes you care about this person, who, yeah, like I said, is a bit of a snob. So, you're rooting for her, and yet you're wondering why. Why am I rooting for this character? So, anyway, I would love to know what your best book or best books of the year were. If you'd like to share that with me in the comment section. As always, if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, you can leave an emoji, or you can give this video a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for watching. BookTube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.